I'm Jeffrey Iron Fist in World of Tanks. I will make a very quick video about OP tanks and about comparison of SPGs with other tanks haven't been nerfed, and we hear they will be nerfed even further, some of them. So let's have a go through the SPGs. So I have found several of them and I've ranked them here. So we have here first of all, let's have a look at the heavy tanks. So all the heavy tanks in the game are on this page, and we're going to compare the heavy tanks with the SPGs. Now I'll just compare two typical ones, and then I will compare here the average case. So the average case for heavy tanks is we have some that have a win rate of about 60, object 790, 58. So 59% and more, with very high numbers up here. So win rate, so you can see there's some high numbers, 57%, 56%, 54%, and then we start some 53%. You notice a lot of them are premiums, so they're in yellow, nearly all of them. The worst ones have, let's say, win rate of, we don't count the last two because there are very few battles, so it's the case with this one. So the worst ones have a win rate of about 43%, so there is that, okay? So now let's switch from heavy tanks to SPGs and see how the SPGs compare. So these are all the SPGs, there are a few of them, about, I'm not sure how many, but let's say about 30 rather than 250. And am I correct? Yes. And first of all, you will already see that, let's go back just in case. So here you see we have, at the top we have a tier 8, then a tier 10, tier 7, tier 9. This tier 5 doesn't count, it only has 7 battles. Tier 10, tier 8, tier 10, there's a tier 6, and the tier 3. Sorry, these are mixed, so let's start again. So tier 8, tier 10, tier 7, these are the heavy tanks. Tier 9, skip that, tier 10, tier 8, tier 10, a tier 6, okay, tier 10, tier 8, tier 8, so lots of tier 8s, tier 9s, tier 10s, and the top 10. Okay, so let's go now to the SPGs. Now here are the SPGs. So we have in the top 10s, first of all, the win rates don't go up to 60, they go up to 53.55, so 53, and then there's only 2 of them with 53% win rates. Then the best one has 51 kind of win rate, 51%, so basically average. And then they go down to, not quite as bad, they go down to about 43, okay, about the same as bad in terms of how bad they can perform, but never quite as good. Never is 59-60% win rates for the best of them. Secondly, the best of them are the Sexton one at tier 3. Then there's the Leichtfeld Haubitze 105 auf zwei. Okay, what's this short word for this? I've never figured it out. You can't even say LEFH, so what do you, this is the leaf blower perhaps. Klaus Kellerman uses that term. Would have been nice if they'd given it a name for the game. But in any case, so tier 5, these are the only two, tier 3 and tier 5 that are worth considering. Is there tier 9, tier 8, tier 10? The next one is the tier 2, the tier 5, tier 6, tier 4, tier 4, tier 3, tier 4. So the best high level is probably this one, the Lorraine 155-51 with 49.78, and then at tier 10 we have the Object 261 with a similar win rate, 49%. So this 49% win rate SPG has to compete with the best heavy tank, let's say the Object 790, with 59%, or the Skoda T45 with 57%, and so on. 58%. So it has to compete with these tanks. It's fighting with its tanks. Yeah, it's obviously not their counterpart. There's a counterpart SPG on the other team, but the chances of that SPG influencing this game, no matter how good those players are, it's not going to be as easy as one of these heavy tanks. Let's have a look, by the way, let's have a look at the medium tanks. So medium tanks also have win rates up here, 59%, 58%, and so on. The top ones are not tier 10, but then we have a tier 10 57% win rate, another tier 10, tier 9. So, you know, the SPGs have pretty tough competition. Okay, so let's see then how the SPGs compare with the best SPG with the best heavy. So the best heavy is basically the Object 279E, and the best SPG we established was the Object 261. So here they are, and I put a Matilda tier 4 at the other end. So I have two tier 10s and a tier 4. And I want to see now how well do the values of the SPG compare with its heavy tank counterpart and a tier 4 tank. Okay, so DPM, the heavy tank has better DPM, so does a tier 4 medium. Penetration 45 doesn't even compare with 258 for the heavy tank. And even the Matilda, the standard rounds, are 121 penetration. Yeah, just look at this comparison. So medium tanks like 3 times better than the tier 10 SPG in terms of penetration. Also true at 500 meters. Damage, of course, if it pans, it will do damage, but it's firing HE. So the Object 261 is firing heat, high explosives, and so it's very rarely going to pan. I mean, it might be able to pan a Matilda if it could fight at tier 4, but it cannot. Even probably shooting a Matilda with 45 is going to be hard. Can it even pan a Matilda? I don't think so. What's the armor of the Matilda? 75, 70, 55. So the tier 10 SPG has a penetration 45. That is not enough to pan a Matilda from the rear, unless it really high rolls. Okay, let's go a bit further down. Let's see, gun handling. Okay, gun handling. So aim time, the Matilda has less than half the aim time. The heavy tank has half the aim time. Dispersion, the Matilda is much, much better, much less dispersion. So is this with a heavy tank compared to the dispersion of the SPG. When damage, we're not even discussing it. Moving, it's awful. Let's see, turret traverse. It doesn't have a turret, does it? Tank traverse. The other two tanks are still better. Turret traverse. The only thing that's better at is has more elevation, so it can lob the shots. That's about it. The gun traverse is obviously very limited. So mobility, it's faster. It has more forward speed than the other two tanks, but not more reverse speed. So the reverse speed is the same level, and it's much more likely the SPG would like to reverse, I should think. Of course, it does have a turret. Tank traverse is worse, and has worse, it's more punished when it's going over sort of soft ground and so on. The other two tanks are better. Armor, maybe it has good armor. Let's see. Maybe in armor they will be better than the other two tanks. So truck armor is slightly better than the Matilda. It has less health clearly than the tier 10 heavy tank, but a fifth of the health to be exact. And it even has less health than the tier 4 medium tank. Okay, it has kind of okay engine, I suppose. That's all right. And the other ones that are not really so important. And miscellaneous, let's say miscellaneous camo. It has worse camo than the heavy tank. And much worse than the tier 4 medium tank. We're now discussing camo after firing, of course. Okay, and moving camo and so on. That's really hopeless. So shell cost is huge compared to the Matilda. But what is interesting is you can buy about, what would it be, about 50, or maybe about 40 Matildas. 40 Matildas for the price of one Object 261, which is, from the looks of it, actually a worse tank. And it cannot even fight at tier 4. It has to fight at tier 10, even though it's a worse tank than the Matilda. So that's how OP SPGs are. And the other thing that comes up every so often is, I might say in a video that heavily armored tanks have an advantage. And people say, oh, but wait, the heavy, whatever it is, German, super heavy, tier 10, isn't better than the Object, but it has slightly more armor. So if we have a look at this list, if I can find it again. So have a look here. There's this German who's super heavy, the Type 5 Japanese. And people will say, oh, but they're not as good as the other heavies. Wherever it is. Well, we're looking at the mediums. So the heavies. Well, some super heavies, the German and the Japanese, but we can find them. Let's stick to still mediums. Let's stick to tier 10, okay. So let's have the super heavy. So there's the E100, okay. It has only 48.5% win rate. And there's the mouse, 49% win rate. So these sort of super heavies, you might say, they have the highest armor. But I'm pretty sure, at least the turret of the Kranwagen has at least as much armor, if not more, than the E100 and the mouse. 50% win rate, that's pretty good. The Object 780 is pretty good, and of course the VK72 and the T79, the Object 79E, they have probably better armor than the mouse or the VK100. And they certainly have better armor than the Object 261. Yeah? So when I'm saying that heavily armored tanks have an advantage, I'm not talking about heavily armored heavies versus, all heavily armored heavies are heavily armored. All heavies are heavily armored. What I'm talking about is that this tank, which is very heavily armored, what's the armor? Why don't I see the armor now? Here, 185 from the front, Object 79E, 120 from the side, compared to, I'm sure it's more than 185 from the front. But in any case, so armor health 185, turret armor 330, that's it. So 330 compared to 75, if it's hold down, it has like 5 times more armor, or something like this. Even the Matilda, it has as much armor as the SPG. Armor is important, and for sure this has like 10% higher win rate, the heavy, than the tier 10, the best tier 10 SPG. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying armor is important. I'm talking 75 versus 330. I'm not talking 330 of the Object 79E versus 335, whatever it is, for the mouse. I'm not making that comparison. Okay. All right. So that is what I had to say about which tanks are OP and which are not. Note that a lot of premium heavies as well. There are no premium. The best ones at the top are all premiums, or reward tanks. No, there are no many premium SPGs, certainly not at tier 10. So that was my video about the OP tanks and the comparison of lightly armored tanks versus heavily armored tanks, and the comparison between SPGs and heavies, and I hope it's all clear now. and I'll get on with my next video. I'll have like 2 or 3 videos in quick succession discussing such topics. See you on the next one. For now, thank you for watching.